the biannual science fiction book talk show for 5 to 7 minutes.
Hello and welcome to the 2014 edition of the biannual science fiction book talk show for 5 to 7 minutes. If you remember, in 2012 we read A Clockwork Orange and we discussed it and we learned a lot about ourselves, the human condition, and of course, society, ethics, and technology. This year we have a great book for you, The Boys from Brazil by Ira Levin. And but before we can really get into all the juicy details about this amazing book, we need to make sure everyone here is clear on what a boy is and on what Brazil is. So I got us a great Brazil expert. Please welcome from Union County Community College, Dr. Luke Emnes.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Emnes, what can you tell us about Brazil today?
Oh, Brazil, my favorite country. Well, on this glow I brought, Brazil is right here.
Wow, is that South America?
Yes, it is.
So what you're telling us is Brazil is a South American country.
Yes, it is.
You learn something new every day. If you had to pick one thing, only one, what is the best thing Brazil has to offer the rest of the world?
It's pretty tough, but you know, there's a long list, but I'd have to say that they're most known for their boys.
Did you say boy?
Boys.
What a coincidence. We have Princeton professor Casey Dugan, the boy expert, here to talk about boys!
Oh, you hungry, boy? You hungry? Hungry? That's a nice boy you got there.
So, Professor Dugan, you studied boys for 4 years
Boys,
at Princeton University, and you have a minor in minors.
Boys, yeah.
What did you think about the book, The Boys from Brazil?
Oh, yeah, Brazilian boys? Yeah, they're pretty nice, yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about the book, The Boys from Brazil.
What?
Anyway, I guess, you know a lot about boys, probably more than myself or Dr.
Yeah,
Candace.
absolutely.
When do you think, is the cutoff for boy to man?
I'm glad you brought this up. This is a passion of mine. I personally feel age 9, that's it, you're a man. Follow all the laws that men do, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. 9?
After age 9, yeah.
Wow. I don't know if you heard, but Dr. Emnes earlier made a comment about how Brazil has some of the greatest boys there is.
Oh, yeah.
Do you agree with him?
Absolutely, yeah. Some pretty nice boys. Pretty nice boys.
Alright, now that we know all we need to know about Brazil and boys, we can finally get to discussing the novel, The Boys from Brazil. And it's a very good novel, so if you haven't read it, I recommend you check it out as soon as you can. But I'm going to give you a brief summary, just in case you haven't read it. The Nazi doctor, Dr. Mengele, also known as the Angel of Death, is alive and hiding in Brazil, and there he gathers 6 former SS officers to kill 94 65-year-old men from all over the world. Journalist Barry Cooler overhears this plan and tells Nazi hunter Yakov Lieberman about these plans before being killed himself by the Angel of Death. This leads Lieberman on a wacky journey all over the world to find out why. While visiting some of the deceased men, Lieberman notices that they have a lot of things in common. Like, all their wives are about 22 years younger than they are, and they all have sons that are about 12 to 13 years old. He also notices that all these sons look almost exactly the same, which makes him wonder why this is. He discovers that the Angel of Death has made Hitler clones! As you can tell, this book heavily features Nazis, Hitler clones, and Angels of Death. So we decided a great guest to have on this show would be an actual Nazi expert. So please welcome our local Nazi expert, Roman Garris. Roman Garris, did you read The Boys from Brazil?
Well, I have read many books about Nazis, but not The Boys from Brazil.
What caused you to take such a great interest in Nazi culture?
Well, it was a bit of a passion of mine.
I don't know if you heard, but earlier our Dr. Emnes said that The Boys from Brazil are the greatest boys, or one of the greatest boys in the world. Do you agree or disagree with him?
Well, when the question arises about boys, it is obvious that the best boys are Aryan quality.
Aryan boys, yeah. Aryan boys. Yeah.
Thank you, Roman, for your unique insight on Nazi culture. The boys from Brazil focus mostly on cloning as the technology that is brought up. And cloning brings up many ethical questions. Although we currently cannot clone full human beings, it has been hypothetically discussed by many people, with advocates supporting it to clone tissues and organs for patients who can't get transplants otherwise. It would also help us avoid using harmful drugs, and studies have shown that it might be able to reverse or slow down the aging process. And as Professor Dugan said earlier, he sure loves his boys, so that would be great for him. Also, parents who can't procreate should have access to cloning, according to advocates, because then they could have kids of their own. Opponents, on the other hand, say the technology is not developed enough for us to know all the pros and cons, and that it can be abused to make perfect humans and get rid of all imperfections in humans, which is controversial. And they also have concerns about how cloned individuals would be able to integrate with our society. Religious groups are divided on how they feel about cloning, with some saying that cloning goes against God's will and is usurping his place, while others support how cloning can bring life-saving benefits to people. Cloning of animals is possible today, but is opposed by most animal groups, such as PETA, as many cloned animals suffer from malformations and just suffer until they die. However, the FDA has approved food from cloned animals, so maybe in the future we could eat cloned hamburgers. We could eat cloned hamburgers. Cloned hamburgers. Alright, now let's answer some questions from around the world. Law and political science professor Bruce Ackerman from Yale asks, does the book say cloning is a good thing or a bad thing? Right, like we discussed earlier, there are many different viewpoints as to whether cloning is ethical or unethical. The book really doesn't take a stand on it. In the end, Lieberman does let the young Hitler clones live their life, thinking that none of them will eventually grow up into Hitler and that they all deserve life, because in the end, life is life. Time for our second question. Dr. John Ronald Brown asks, are there anything that Dr. Mengele could have done differently to make his plan more successful? Well, there are a few things Dr. Mengele could have done different to make his plan more successful. He could have tested his cloning technology out before making Hitler clones on animals to see if there's any complications. He also could have tested it with another human being to see if the clone would grow up to be like the original human being he cloned, because he could theorize that the Hitler clones would grow up, that a few of them would grow up to be Hitler. Without testing, he wouldn't know that completely that there would be any successful adult Hitlers. He also could have killed Lieberman when he started to figure out what his plan was, and that he was sending SS officers to kill 94 old men all over the world. Alright, time for the third question. This question comes from the ambassador to El Salvador, Marie Carmen Aponte, who wants to know what issues in the book are relevant to us today. The Boys from Brazil brings up a few ethical questions and dilemmas that are still very much relevant to the world today, like the ethical questions of whether we should clone humans and whether human clones would be able to function in our society. Alright, that's it for this year's book talk. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. I would like to thank our guests, Dr. Luke Emnes, Professor Casey Dugan, and Nazi expert Roman Garris, also known as Dr. Strangelove, I guess. You can edit that out. I guess there's nothing else to do but group hug.
Mein Führer, I can hug!
Thanks for watching.
Oh, you got that.